Hello, everyone. I'm Natasha Ryan with the North Group, and I am the host of this magical podcast called Time to Head North. And I use the word magical. Why, Carlos? Because we have the history of Disney together.
Yes, we do.
So glad to have my friend Carlos Francisco on, the Corporate Security Translator. I am very grateful for your time with your new baby and lack of
Oh,
sleep.
I'll tell you, it's awesome to be here. You're just talking about North Group, great folks, but at the same time, I'm like, she said magical, so is it North Pole, like Santa Claus as well? Let's throw Santa in there as well, since it's the North Group
Why
Pole.
not? Why
You
not?
know, no, but I'm pumped to be here. Every time we get to hang out and chat, it's always a good time, and why not? Let's do it again. Let's talk about life and the pursuit of happiness in the future and what's going on in the industry. And I don't know where we're gonna go. Let's just go.
Let's do it. Okay, so for
Yeah.
those of you who don't know, Carlos has spent a lot of his efforts helping people transition into the corporate security world. That's why he's called the Corporate Security Translator, and he even founded Corporate Security University. He's got a podcast, he's a best-selling author. I mean, I don't know what you haven't done at this point, but this is mainly just to see where you're at and get your perspective on some things. So let's start with,
Yeah.
how is the book? I mean, it's not super new, but it's super successful. So I want to chat with you.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. The book is doing great. It was always awesome to be, Amazon #1, because that says something about the book, and it's something that as a writer, as you're sitting down writing, like, are people going to care about this stuff? Is it important to anyone at all, or is it just me? And so it kind of validates what I tried to do, which is great for me. But the second book is in its first reading. Uh, so yeah, so the first book was So You Want to Get Into Corporate Security, and it was really trying to help those folks transitioning in, or even a great book for somebody that's at the kind of the lower levels of security, maybe the first level supervisory or first level management, right? To get you an idea of what corporate security is all about. And then I said, well, let me write a book now that now you're in. You got in, you're leading a team, but how do you build a corporate security program? And that's what the second book is about. It's all about, from the ground up, by the way, about building a corporate security program. Right now, the working title is So You Want to Build Your Own Corporate Security Program. Who knows what's going to be at the end of it all? And let's see. Now, the third book is in the works now on the back end that I'm writing. And the third book, I had a three book contract with the publisher. And the third book that I'm working on is So Do You Want to Change the Future of Corporate Security? So once you got in, once you kind of put your program together, you're relaxed, things are rolling the way they're supposed to be. What else can you do to change the industry? Where can we go to make our industry better? Right. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm writing. Now, the cool thing about this book is that I took a lot of things from my Mickey Mouse days to kind of set forth what I think security in the future is going to be, with a lot of customer centric approach and a lot of mixed in with some technology and everything else. But it breaks down kind of that customer centric approach. Not too much of bombs and bad guys; those things will always be there. But what I always preach, which is, look, I'd rather have a security force that is the best customer centric folks in the world, because 99.9% of the situations you're going to come across in security, from that one person at the front door when you walk in, all the way to
Mhm.
somebody just needing direction, all the way to somebody that just needs a little bit of help with something. It's that customer service stuff, right? And then that 0.01% really is when things happen and we have to worry about the bombs and bad guys. So how do we think about that moving in the future, where we still look into bombs and bad guys, but make sure that every single one of our folks are extremely customer centric based, especially with a lot of folks these days, and the future is just becoming a little bit softer. I think it's better for us to be security hosts, as my old day, right? Security officers with a badge, but more like customer centric customer service officers with a badge. There you
I
go.
love this. I love this. Let's keep going with this. Okay.
Sure.
So, we talk often about how the future of security is. You have to understand that in today's climate, you can't go into an ecosystem and expect to bark orders and change protocols. You have to fit the culture of the organization, and the security people have to adapt, right? Still
Right.
functioning in their primary role to keep people safe, but with a nuance, right? So we often talk about this, and how at the end of the day, like in our situational awareness training programs, we talk about how a lot of people just want to be heard. And if they feel heard, you can de-escalate and the issue goes away, right? And if we think about that in not just security, but in any facet of our lives, we just want to feel heard.
Yeah.
How important is it for companies to accept this to be successful in the future?
Wow. So I'm getting a little bit of goosebumps because, as you say, I just want to be heard. Really brings back a tremendous amount of memories again from my days at Mickey Mouse. And people, it's funny, Natasha, people ask me all the time, how come you talk about Mickey Mouse so much? First of all, it's 21 years of my life. So let's get that out of the way.
Yeah.
Two,
Yeah.
two, I really do think that it was an education and a half that I couldn't have gotten it anywhere else. It doesn't matter where you go, but I think even if you spend a year there, it's enough for you to take a lot of great nuggets out with you, you know?
100%. Yep.
So 21 years of that, that's what it is. So as you were saying that, I'll give you a perfect example. And I don't know if I've told you this story before, but I remember coming up, I was security manager, 2014, Disney's Hollywood Studios. And I happened to get called up to the front door. This gentleman with this family, he was just not having a magical day. And so I had to go out there and talk to him because my security folks were trying to talk to him, and it wasn't going through. So I go out there and I said, "Hey, how you doing? What's going on? We're happy to have you here, sir." Right away, "We are happy to have you here. Like, you're not, I know you're causing problems,
Yep.
but I want you to know that I'm still happy that you're here." Right. And he's like, "My damn ticket is not working and I can't get in." And he's freaking out, man. He's going crazy. And I said, "Hey, okay. Let me talk to you. Can I talk to you for a second?" He goes, "Ah, it's not, nothing's gonna." I said, "No, let me talk to you." The part where you said, "I just want to be heard," is so important, because if you can take that and go do exactly what I did. I said, "Hey, man, I just want to hear you, right? I just want to talk to you. Let me know what's going on, because I want to make sure that," I looked at his kids. "I want to make sure that you and I are here for your kids and your family, right? And
Yep.
that we want to make sure that their day is the most magical day they'll ever have in their lives. Is that why we're here?" And he goes, "Yeah, but let me tell you what happened." I said, "Absolutely. Tell me what happened." And basically, he wasn't upset about the ticket not going through. He was upset because he just drove down from Chicago, which he told me took him about 18 hours nonstop. He gets to the hotel. He's tired as hell. And he lays down on the bed for a little bit. All of a sudden, the mom says, "No, we're going to the park." And he's like, "Give me a couple minutes." And no, mom said, "We're going to the park." But imagine the 18-hour drive with two kids and family,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
and so kids are screaming. It's been a long drive. You have to stop all the time because everybody wants to go to the bathroom. And there's all these things going on. And then it culminates with him getting to, when, by the way, when it was too early for him to check in at the hotel, he had to literally beg them to
Oh,
let me in,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he goes, "And then I get here to the gate and I can't get into this, And I said, "Look, man, not only am I going to get you in, but I'm going to get you and your kids some fast passes. How about that? So you don't have to wait in any line, because I know you waited enough, you know."
Yeah.
And he literally bursted into tears and gave me a hug. And again, it's listening to folks. That's where security needs to be, instead of, this idea that, eh, because of our policy and procedure, we must treat people in a certain way because we have the law behind us or something like that. It's
Yeah.
so, the approaches. So that's what really the third book is about. It's like, how do we change the future of security? And it has little nuggets like that. If you're going to approach a tough situation, automatically let them know that, I know they're having a tough time, and that's the reason why you're there, but you still should let them know that they are your cherished guests, right? You don't just go
Yes.
into there like
Yep.
a bouncer, because it can only go down from there. So, anyways, that's one of the concepts that I'm covering on the third book as well, on how I believe security vendors, security companies that are out there, right, can really spend time training and educating their folks on.
First of all, let me just add that when you work at Disney, you see the best and the worst, right? Because just just like any situation,
Yeah.
the pressure to make that the best vacation of your kids' lives. I mean, I even get super hyped up to have the right matching t-shirts and everything's
Yes.
got to be in place. And if something doesn't come, what if the luggage gets lost and we don't have the matching shirts? It's very stressful until you actually walk through the doors of the park, the gates, and then you're like, okay, now I can let go. I
Right.
made it. We're here. We're in the shirts. Everyone has stuff. We're good. So, you can apply that to any setting, right? Like a healthcare setting. If you're dealing with
Absolutely.
someone that is in the lobby and they're upset, you've got to, it's like my priest gave a really great lecture on this one time. He said, the next time you get really mad in the car and you go to road rage, which we're all guilty of, he goes, remember, you have no idea what that person has gone through today. They
Yeah.
could have lost someone they loved. They could have lost their job. They could have a sick child. You have no idea. And I'm not good at it all the time. Let's be real. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I do try to remember. And my kids remind me because they actually listen to that sermon. They listen. So they're like, Mom, remember what Father said. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, kids do have a tremendous knack of remembering things that are like, you're like, how did you remember that,
Yeah. Of
right?
all the things you remember that. Okay. All
And
right.
that's the thing, right? So using things like you just said, and having that knowledge that those kids are going to remember that having a terrible time at Disney, right? You could say, listen, we're here for your kids, right?
Yeah.
I'm really, So I think that works out really well. But going back a little bit on maybe the industry a little bit, Natasha, I think
Yeah.
that's what we're missing so much of it. I lead a sizable team in one of the biggest companies in the world, and it's interesting that my customers, and I call them customers, but these are my coworkers, partners, my partners out in the field. One of the biggest complaints that they have about security is that they're just not nice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like 90% of the complaints is that they're not nice, you know? So the idea that if a security officer at the front gate, right, starts kind of learning the people that are coming into that front gate every day and then by name, and being able to just say their names when they walk in, or maybe ask, hey, how was the drive in this morning? Or if it was a sunny day, hey, man, what a wonderful day out there, isn't it, Larry? Or, whoever the
Yeah.
person's name is, that changes the concept of what security should be. And it becomes almost like security concierge. I don't know if
Yeah.
anybody's ever kind of used that, but that's where it needs to be. And I think the future of it is going to be like that. And that's before we get the heavy guns and everything else, because of
Yeah.
the slowdown of law enforcement folks coming around and not many of them, applying to be police officers. I think first we have to bring humanity to security, and it's not really so much about policies, procedures, and laws. It's about the human aspect of it. So that's what the third book is about.
Awesome. I want to talk a little bit,
Yeah.
I don't think I've talked to you about the university on a podcast yet. So
Mm.
I want to know how that's all going, what kind of responses you're getting. I mean, I'm sure you have some really great stories of success from that. So tell me why you founded it, A,
Yeah.
and then B, how everything's going.
Well, why I found it is because of a wonderful gentleman that I met, Mr. Scott Walker, that I partner with so much. He's one of the nicest guys in the world. And
He
if
truly
you,
is.
yeah, and if you've never met Scott Walker before, you should. You want to talk about a tremendous human being that's in the security industry? That's one of those guys, and there's plenty of them. The Lees and the Tims.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of folks that we know, right?
Yeah.
And we gravitate to each other. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
But one day we were just talking about it, and we had this idea. I've had the idea for a long time. I just didn't know how good it would be. But Scott and I were just talking, and we shared a couple of ideas before, and we said, "Hey, man, how can we create a university that educates more than just your uh, guard card security classes? Can we go above that and talk about security leadership classes?"
Yeah.
or crowd management classes. Not spend so much time on like bombs and bad guys, but things that are like important to companies and leadership, understanding budgets in the security industry, understanding P&Ls in the security industry. The real nutty, the business part that a lot of folks that in the beginning the thought was that transition from law enforcement and military don't know much about, because that's not what they were doing probably
Right.
in their
Right.
past lives. How do I teach them the importance while you're doing budget? If you're over and under, what is it? Is it performance based? Is it timing based? And what are the issues there with the budget piece, or in leadership, right? What are the core points of leadership in a corporation? And partnership, what are the core points of partnerships in a corporation that are important? Because you can no longer just dictate to people what you want them to do,
Right.
right? Very different. So that's what we did. So we said we weren't going to do this guard card thing. We were going to focus on leadership courses that didn't exist out there. But we started with the transition courses, those 3 little courses that we threw out there about the transition. And then we've been building it out ever since. So we've been working with, and I'm able to say this, but the NBA with the Phoenix Suns on corporate security magic. We create a certification body now that literally tells people that your entire security program is a corporate security magic program, which is all about customer-centric approach to everything they do, right from the beginning to the end. So we're able to work with companies like that are heavy in the people industry, right? And so we create a certification body, and now we're just building a lot of things. We became CPE providers for ASIS International. So slowly trying to put things together that just didn't exist in the past, but not be your just 40-hour guard card.
Yeah. Love
We
it.
didn't want to do that. So
Yep.
yeah,
Elevated. Now,
yeah.
have you had the chance to see this come to, how long has it been around?
So we kicked it off, interesting enough, about a year ago. And on the business sense, the business side, real quick, we were already in the black within the first 2 months of how much
Well,
money we put in, right? The return
congrats.
on that investment.
Yeah.
So if we were to say, well, how well is the business doing? I literally just see it as that, because it's a passion thing. Both
Yeah.
Scott and I have real jobs.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
real jobs.
Yeah.
But the good thing about this kind of work is that you can set it and forget it in a way. We get together the entire weekend. We have a blast recording a bunch of things together. I'll fly over to Phoenix,
Yep.
where Scott lives, and I actually get to sleep on his couch. Now he gives me a bed. He gives me a bed, but we get to go back to like college days. And the beauty about Scott and I is that we geek out on things. We're geeking out on things like quantum computing and security right now, blockchain as part of security in the future. Like, we're geeking out about almost any. We throw up a topic and we just geek out for like 30 minutes on that topic. And then we'll throw out another topic and we'll just, so anyways, great thought partner for sure. But that's why we started. We just wanted to elevate the security industry on things that just didn't exist in the past, and create a certification that we felt was important on to be more customer-centric side than bombs and bad guys. So,
And the end result, right, is you probably have people coming to you saying, man, you help me, right?
yeah.
How does that feel to have an actual effect on someone's career?
I cry often, Natasha.
That's okay.
I'll tell you, I was at GSX, the last GSX that we just had in Dallas. And I had about a handful of folks that came to me and said some nice things. One, I was about 3 or 4 drinks in already. But it was definitely not normal for me. Every once in a while, I used to get somebody that I dealt with while I was working. I said, thank you for being nice, or thank you for doing this for us, or thank you. But it was never something that you created. When you create something, it's like this baby, right, that you put together, and somebody comes to you and says, you changed my life, or you helped me get my job, and my kids and my wife are thankful for you. They're not here to say that, but I wanted you to know. And then here's a drink. I got a couple of drinks offered to me last time. It changes my life, because we don't get much from it. Like the books itself. If you have a publishing deal, anybody that's looking to do any publishing deals in the security industry, let me know. But Because it's your first books, the publisher gets most of the book money. You don't get much. So
Yeah.
it's just, so you
Yeah.
have to go into it thinking it's a vehicle of where you want to go and what you
Right.
want to do, not so much that you're going to make money off of it. So we
Right.
don't make a lot of money off of it. You know, and I know there's not a lot of money to be made out of podcasts like this. We're such a niche
Right.
industry and a niche
Yeah.
business. So you have to do it from the bottom of your heart. So whenever somebody just refills your water, right? By the way, here it is. Where somebody refills that glass back up for you every once in a while, saying, "Hey, man, you changed my family's life." It is awesome to hear.
Yeah.
So
Very
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
All right. I'm going to steer this a little bit here.
yeah. I get it.
Okay. So we talked about the customer-centric approach, and I'm sitting here thinking about, we just posted something how a university is thinking about employing students
Mhm.
as community police officers, essentially.
Yeah, yep.
If you're truly taking the customer-centric approach and their only job is to be eyes and ears, is this a good idea?
Yeah, I seen it work. So my first soiree at a university, we had that. We had that. These are almost like interns that were thinking about a criminal justice major or something like that.
Yeah.
And there were these kind of, the problem is that even back then, they didn't have any training on how to deal with people. It was just
Right.
like, hey, here's a radio, here's a keys to a marked vehicle. Go run out there and just good luck dealing with 18, 19-year-olds that don't really care to talk to you, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a great idea. I think anything that comes from the peers themselves is a great idea, as long as they get training on how to be amazing community folks. So if you get community training, community relations, any of those in the beginning, and then understand their boundaries as well. That look, right now your job is to be a peer. You're not a cop. You're not this. You're not the other things. So it takes a lot of training. So customer service training, community relations training, deep understanding of their boundaries and where they can go, and more focused on the old community policing, like getting out of the car and saying hi to your fellow students, and even letting them know in the classrooms, "Hey, I know I do this, man. I'm really excited to be here," and actually share they're positively excited to be doing what they're doing. It takes a little bit of work. Here's something interesting. I just saw a job open for Harvard University, and in the news a couple months ago, the president of Harvard happened to be sitting in front of the Senate saying some things that were a little weird, right? And now they have a director of security. They have a Harvard Police Department, but they're hiring for a director of security. Why do I think they're doing that? Well, I think they're doing that because a director of security can, I think, more highly impact a university than just a police chief. And the reason for that is that because they're more people based, right? Security is about observe and report. And I think it's easier for you to create relationships at that level than it is if you're a police department with badges and guns. You can still do it in by the way, a lot of PDs and a lot of universities do it really, really well. But I think that layer really helps bring the community together, as much as I believe students with their peers can continue to bring that together.
There are a lot of areas. A story came out, this week, in fact, about continued efforts to bring more private security companies into downtown Seattle because law enforcement can't get there, or you know what I mean? And we keep talking about this as a trend, and this is the way, right? So, I mean, do you think this is going to just eventually evolve to every city, every town where private security continues to take more and more?
I think it'll continue to evolve in specific cities that need it. If you look at the top 5 cities in the country with the most amount of crimes, everything from weapons crimes down to your burglaries and stuff, are these kinds of cities that are large enough, that have a body of folks that lead it in a way. And if you remove those 5 cities from the criminality of the United States, we're actually not that criminal of a country. If you could just remove those 5 cities.
Yeah.
So I think those major cities will continue to have that because they need it. Sadly, a lot more folks are not getting into the law enforcement business. and that's horrible. But I think if they're going to succeed, again, they better teach them how to deal with um, psychiatric issues, mental health issues. I think they're going to have to teach these security officers how to be customer centric and how to be more understanding than they ever were taught to be understanding. When somebody is cussing at you and telling you that, whatever it is that they're telling, that you cannot take it personal, right?
Yeah.
And it's very difficult for somebody that's not well trained to not take those things personal. So again, if you focus your education on the heart and the mind of folks, then you will win. I think if you focus your education and security all 100% about bombs and bad guys in the future, you will lose. So I would highly suggest all of the security companies, they're going into places like Seattle. The security companies now going into supermarkets and going into, which it's becoming more prevalent everywhere I go. Well, think about that. The normal everyday public is going into supermarkets. The
Yeah.
normal everyday public that are hungry and need food are going into supermarkets. People with psychological issues, right? Behavioral issues and all this other stuff, they are going into supermarkets as they're going to city. So if you're putting security officers into those settings without educating them highly on behavioral issues and customer centric approach and all these other things, one, I think you're creating a tremendously high liability for your company. You're going to put your company in a pretty crappy situation,
Yeah.
because the officers will act in a way, if you're not trained, you're going to act as if you're not trained. And so as a business leader, if I'm thinking about, do I want to get into those businesses? Do I want to get into the downtown city of Seattle? Do I want to get into the supermarkets and everything else? Well, I better train my folks to lower my liability of something happening, right? And they're talking about security officers with guns
Yeah.
going into these cities.
Yeah.
Imagine that, right? So if you are a security company that do not have a great inventory system where you know what's going on with these weapons, especially if you're your weapons. I'm not going to go into the history of security companies and weapons and how those things disappear. But, again, it's all about, if you're going to put them in those settings, you better set them up to
For
win,
success.
because if
Yeah.
they don't win, your company's about to take on a tremendous amount of liability.
Well, and that's where I always talk about brand reputation, right?
There
Because
you
if
go.
you are sending someone out there not only to protect the client and their reputation, they're also repping your company, right?
Right.
So they've got to understand, again, with today's world with cell phones and publicity available to anyone 24/7, wanted or unwanted, you've got to understand you are representing more than just yourself at this point in any function, really, in today's world. Like, I don't care what your job is. We're all on stage in a way, in my
we're,
opinion.
all, we're all on stage. And I'll tell you, though there will be more jobs available for security because of the lack of law enforcement folks, right, that are available, I think the security companies need to be more choosy. They really need to sit back and really think about the opportunities that are coming their way, and making the right decisions for the company as a whole. Because if you put, like I said, if you put yourself in tough positions where there's going to be high liability and a high probability of things happening, then you might have to pay the piper at the end of on the other side, right?
Yeah, it's resisting that pressure to staff that last minute job, and you go to the bottom of the call list and you're like, well, you can't do that anymore. I don't think you can.
I agree, and it's interesting because companies will say, well, I won't pick that 168-hour contract, or I won't do that. Well, there's going to be a lot of those coming up, right? And who's going to fulfill those needs if the big companies are not? It's going to be the smaller companies. But even the smaller companies should think about, hey, how much liability am I putting myself into, especially being a smaller company where my bank account, to fight these lawsuits are not as deep as everybody else. Um, Anyways, so yeah,
Bad
it's
decision equals bankruptcy.
well, very quick, if not some even personal issues, right? Some
Yeah.
further
Yeah.
civil issues if you weren't intelligent enough to kind of layer your LLCs, but that's a whole other thing. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. The world is evolving, and we'll see how it's going to go. But hopefully, some technology will help out with that, right?
Talk about that.
Yeah, it's interesting because so blockchain is a great thing. I was just talking to our friend, and I'm going totally in a different direction now. It's almost like cyber side of the
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
But blockchain is an interesting thing. It does really well for the transference of coins, bitcoins and everything else, and because it gives you a ledger of who took it, when they took it, what time they took it. Do they have the rights to take it? It's a wonderful thing. Like, well, we need to start thinking about blockchain as a way to securing our computers and securing how we do business. Why, if they could do it to transfer money, why can't they do it to transfer keys, right? That opens an email, keys that opens the back end of a website or something like that. They're not doing enough of that. So that's one thought that we've been coming around. And then, I mean, you're talking about securing against people. That's what we've been saying. But how about things like quantum computing when they come around? The more we focus on generative AI, Gen AI, and we build out these extremely fast computers that run extremely cold. I'm in the data center world, so if I geek out for a second, I apologize. But
No, I like it.
yeah, so these computers have to run extremely cold. Well, the more and more and more we'll be able to get to quantum computing, which that's all of the security features that we have today, like the RSA or ECC encryptions, the elliptical curve cryptography. None of that stuff will really work when quantum computing comes around. And then the AI piece, it's like, well, how long will it take until Carlos is not actually talking to you, Natasha? Because I'm in a meeting somewhere else, and this is not Carlos. This is Carlos the second, the AI generated person, right? That can literally make phone calls and tell you, hey, call my wife, right? Hey, honey, I forgot my password. Can you give me that password?
Yeah.
And of course, my wife would say, dude, it was your password. How can you forget your password, right? So, but anyways, there's a lot of different things on technology that are coming up. I think the usage of virtual reality and security training is going to be still big. It's not going to slow down. So many different things, man. That's a whole other chapter of things that
It is a whole other chat, and I just think once again that goes back to the conversation of it's no longer physical on this side, cyber on this side. There has to be collaboration. We don't have a choice. There has to be an integration.
I agree, and who does this best? Yeah, that's why I would keep. If I could just get some security companies to listen to me on this, it'd be best. Today you can have, not today, I'll tell you, 2013, when a little thing called My Magic Plus came out, I was part of the team that brought it out to the public. And I thought it was really interesting then how I could walk past a photo shop on Main Street, USA, and it would all the photos that I've taken throughout the parks with this little wristband that they gave me, because they would just scan your wristband. Right. As I'm walking through the Photoshop, the glass on the Photoshop would recognize who I was, and it would start throwing up pictures of me and my family as I'm walking by it. Right. So I'm thinking of this like security wise, if we're already doing this in 2013, how come we're not using this as some kind of security setting where if I'm walking around, right? How about this? I go up to a ride to go take a ride. Well, again, this little wristband thing tells the person at the front entrance of the ride, the ride operator, who I am, right? So as I'm walking up, that cast member used to say, "Hi, Carlos, great to see you," or "Hi, Francisco family, awesome to see you," right?
Yeah.
And how come we weren't looking into that back in 2013 to do those kinds of things in security and then compile? So all I say is that we need to look at companies that are in the cutting edge of technology all the time, and not focus so much on what we do today. Yeah, camera systems, access control systems, intrusion detection systems, they're all great. But it seems like we've hit this plateau, and I hope it explodes sometime soon. But this plateau of like the same thing, we're doing a lot of work in the back, and then uploading the software, a new uploaded software. People are talking about AI, and I'm like, well, to me, that's only machine learning. It's not AI yet. But when is it that we're going to look at these companies that are out there creating these amazing technologies and going, okay, how do I create that? I want to create that for security. I think it'll be amazing.
How
So
about
the
it,
future is going to
Carlos?
be awesome.
Add that to your roster.
The what?
Add that to your roster. You create it.
Yeah, well, if I was I wasn't intelligent enough to do that. But now that I sit on the boards, I sit on the boards of American Military University and the University of Central Florida. Go Knights! And I tell the students all the time. They ask me, what do you think I should do? And the two things that I tell them is that, look, one, cyber's going to be around for a while. Do that. Think about that. That's going to be a good one. And then I say, two, security systems. There's a lot of security systems that are going to be needed, and they're evolving every single day. The problem is that we don't have any more blue collar works to even run the lines. We don't have any blue collar works that can run the lines and lead a team. That can run, these low voltage lines. So there's not enough. You could talk to any of these companies that are out there, security systems company, and we don't have any integrators. I mean, I have a problem finding integrators where my data centers are around the world because they're in the tier 2 and 3 cities that are outside of the big cities.
Yeah.
We can't find people to integrate.
I hear this a lot.
Yeah, we can't find people to integrate. So go into that. And if you have, just a little bit of a personality, you could be a great leader and you could literally grow in that business and do something amazing with it. Those are the two things that I tell university kids today,
Well, I love it. I appreciate your time. Any final thoughts here, Carlos?
No, it's always great to spend a little time with you and the great folks at North Group. Thanks for the opportunity to come back and talk a little bit about life and the pursuit of happiness and the timeline of where it was to where it is or where it's going. And just thankful for every opportunity that I get every single day. So, but I am going to Texas and hope to see a lot of folks out there in Texas. I've been reaching out to folks and let's create, I'm all about relationships. Yeah. And I love to see Dallas-Fort Worth area be the new security hub for all of security throughout the world.
Well, a lot of great leaders are there and going there. So it's completely plausible to me that could happen. Tell everyone where to get your book, where to find your university programs, all the things.
Yeah, I'm really good at selling my own stuff. Thanks for reminding me. Hey, you can just go on Amazon. You go on Amazon, How to Conquer is the publisher. You get on their website as well, but you could get on Audible. You can listen to this voice, read an entire book, but you get on there. Check us out at corporatesecurityuniversity.com. Check out my partner, Scott Walker, with 1 T, Scott, because that's how cool he is, with 1 T, another great guy in our industry. And again, a lot of the other folks that are around and trying to do their best to move this industry forward, to include the great folks at North Group. So thank you, Natasha, and everybody for having me.
Thank you. And if you want to check out more episodes of Time to Head North, you can do that at tngdefense.com, or you can check it out on Spotify, iTunes, or Podbean for just the audio. But if you do see the video or audio, please give us a like. And if you really like it, maybe subscribe. Thanks, everyone, for listening/watching. Have a magical day. Thanks, Carlos.
Have a magical day. Bye-bye.